Ladies and gentlemen, imagine this. A father, weathered by time, embraces his son for the first time in years. It is brief, just a second, maybe two, but in that moment something unspoken passes between them. It is not just warmth, not just a mere social gesture. It is an entire history of struggle, sacrifice, and an unarticulated love that words so often fail to capture. Now consider this. Why does that moment matter? Why do men, who so often stand apart, who struggle to articulate their emotions in the way society increasingly demands, communicate so much in something as simple as a hug? The answer, my friends, is not just psychological. It is biological, it is cultural, it is deeply, profoundly archetypal. A man's hug is not merely an act of physical closeness. It is a silent language, a profound form of communication that speaks volumes without a single word. Unlike casual embraces exchanged in social settings, a man's hug carries an underlying weight, a history of experiences, struggles, and emotions that are often difficult to articulate verbally. When a father embraces his son, it is more than just a sign of affection. It is a transfer of unspoken wisdom, a reassurance of presence and protection. It acknowledges the burdens of manhood that will inevitably come, and silently conveys, "You are not alone in this." When two brothers or close friends hug, especially in moments of hardship, it becomes a moment of shared resilience. It is not just an act of comfort, but a mutual recognition of struggle, a way of saying, "I see what you are carrying, and I stand with you." Unlike the more outwardly expressive forms of affection typically associated with femininity, male affection often manifests through action rather than words. Society has conditioned men to be more reserved in their emotional expression, making the rare instances when they do embrace all the more significant. A hug between men, therefore, is not just about warmth or familiarity. It is a moment of emotional honesty, a rare glimpse into the depths of their unspoken bonds. The deeper significance of a man's hug becomes most evident in moments of crisis, when words fail, when loss, regret, or exhaustion have drained a man of his ability to articulate what he feels. A hug remains. It becomes a lifeline, a bridge across the isolating gap that pain often creates. In such moments, the physicality of the hug itself, its firmness, its duration, communicates more than words ever could. A father embracing his grieving son, a soldier hugging his brother in arms after surviving battle, or a man holding his friend after a personal loss. These are moments where human connection transcends language. Moreover, a man's hug is not only an expression of support, but also an affirmation of identity. It reinforces bonds, affirms loyalty, and solidifies a shared sense of purpose. It reminds men that they are part of something larger than themselves, a family, a brotherhood, a history that stretches beyond the moment. In a world where many men struggle to express their emotions freely, the significance of a single, sincere embrace cannot be overstated. It is in many ways a quiet but powerful declaration of love, respect, and solidarity. Masculine affection often goes unnoticed because it does not always conform to the conventional expectations of emotional expression. While many assume that care and warmth must be vocalized or displayed openly, men often communicate their deepest emotions through actions rather than words. A hug in this context is not just an expression of affection, it is a gesture laden with meaning, often serving as a rare moment of emotional honesty in a man's life. Unlike more frequent and expressive forms of affection, such as verbal affirmations or overt displays of emotion, a man's hug is often brief, but deeply intentional. It is not given lightly, nor is it taken for granted. There is an unspoken understanding that when it happens, it carries significance. This is why a hug between men, especially in moments of vulnerability, can be so powerful. It is a form of unspoken support, a way of acknowledging emotions that may otherwise remain buried beneath the weight of expectations and responsibilities. When two men embrace, whether as brothers, friends, or father and son, there is often a reserved intensity in the gesture, a firm grip, a strong pat on the back, or even a slight hesitation before letting go. All of these subtle cues carry meaning. The physicality of the embrace is not just about comfort, it is about reassurance, loyalty, and the silent acknowledgement that the other person is not alone in their struggles. A handshake may signify respect, but a hug goes deeper. It expresses trust, vulnerability, and connection in a way that words sometimes cannot. This subtlety in masculine affection is particularly evident in situations where words fail. When a friend has suffered a loss, when a father sends his son into the world, or when a soldier reunites with his comrade, a hug becomes more than a simple gesture. It absorbs the emotions that men may struggle to verbalize and transforms them into something tangible. It is an unspoken promise. I am here, you are not alone. We stand together. In a world that often misinterprets male emotional restraint as detachment, it is important to recognize the depth of what is being communicated in these seemingly simple moments. A man's hug is not just about physical closeness. It is a deeply ingrained, instinctive way of expressing solidarity, respect, and unspoken understanding. It is a language all its own, one that speaks not in words, but in presence, in strength, and in quiet but undeniable connection. Strength is often misunderstood. Many believe it is defined by stoicism, by the ability to endure without showing vulnerability. But true strength is not the absence of emotion. It is the ability to carry it, to integrate it, and to express it in a disciplined and meaningful way. A man's hug, often seen as a fleeting or insignificant act, is in fact a profound demonstration of this balance. It is strength expressed through connection rather than force, through reassurance rather than domination. In a world that expects men to be pillars of resilience, many internalize the belief that showing emotion is a weakness. They suppress their struggles, bury their pain, and resist outward displays of vulnerability. But the reality is that suppressing emotion does not make it disappear. It only isolates. A man who can express care through something as simple as a hug demonstrates an even deeper form of strength, the kind that is not afraid to be present, to acknowledge hardship, and to support those around him. A father who hugs his son after years of distance is not showing weakness. He is showing courage. He is breaking the cycle of emotional silence that has kept so many men disconnected from one another. A friend who embraces his brother in a moment of despair is not losing his strength. He is offering it. A husband who pulls his wife into his arms after a long day is not betraying his masculinity. He is reinforcing it through protection, reassurance, and love. Masculinity has always been about responsibility, about standing firm in the face of adversity. But part of that responsibility is knowing when to extend a hand, when to offer reassurance, and when to show others that they are not alone. A man's hug is a silent but powerful assertion of this truth. It is an act that says, I see you, I stand with you, and I am strong enough to show it. The strongest men are not those who hide their emotions behind a wall of silence. They are the ones who have mastered the art of controlled vulnerability, who can carry their burdens without being crushed by them, who can offer comfort without losing their sense of self. A man's hug is not a sign of fragility. It is a declaration of presence, of unwavering support, and of the deep, unshakable bonds that hold us together in a world that too often tries to tear us apart. Not all hugs are the same, and this is especially true for men. Every embrace carries a unique message, shaped by the relationship, the context, and the emotions behind it. A father's hug differs from a friend's, just as a brother's hug is distinct from a mentor's. These gestures, though simple, convey complex emotions: pride, solidarity, grief, reassurance, without the need for words. When a father embraces his son, it is more than just a moment of affection. It is a transfer of wisdom, a silent promise of protection, and a deep-rooted acknowledgement of love. A firm grip on the shoulder, a strong yet brief hold. These elements all communicate something beyond the physical act. It tells the son, I am proud of you. You are growing into your own. You carry my legacy and I trust you with it. Whether it happens in childhood or long into adulthood, this hug represents guidance, the passing of responsibility, and an assurance that no matter what happens, the bond remains. Between brothers or close male friends, a hug carries an entirely different weight. Here the message is one of loyalty and shared struggle. These are the men who stand together through challenges, who have seen each other at their weakest and still remain. A strong pat on the back, a slightly longer hold, or a quiet nod after pulling away. All of these small details reinforce an understanding that words would overcomplicate. This hug says, "I have your back. We have been through the fire together and we are still standing." It is a reaffirmation of trust, a reminder that strength is not just an individual pursuit, but a collective one. Then there is the hug shared in times of grief or hardship. When words fail, when nothing can undo the pain of loss or disappointment, the only thing left to offer is presence. A silent embrace between men in these moments is an acknowledgement of suffering, an unspoken vow that the burden will not be carried alone. There is no need for excessive explanation or emotional display, just the understanding that someone is there, that they will endure together. Each of these moments tells a different story, but they all reinforce the same truth. A man's hug is never just about physical closeness. It is a language of its own, one that speaks through action rather than words, offering support, recognition, and unwavering connection in the moments that matter most. In today's society, the way men express their emotions is often misunderstood. There is a growing pressure to conform to an ideal of masculinity that discourages vulnerability, seeing it as a sign of weakness. As a result, many men internalize the belief that to show affection, care, or sadness is to risk being seen as fragile or less masculine. This leads to emotional suppression, and in many cases to an erosion of the very connection that men desperately need, both with others and with their own feelings. What's important to recognize, however, is that these moments of emotional expression, such as a hug, are not signs of weakness. Rather, they represent the hidden strength of men who are capable of opening up, even in a world that doesn't always make room for them to do so. Men have historically been expected to be stoic, to handle hardship without outward signs of emotion. This expectation, though perhaps well-intentioned, has created an environment in which male emotional expression is often repressed or dismissed. Men are taught to handle their problems quietly, to seek help less frequently, and to keep their emotional struggles hidden. Over time, this results in an emotional isolation that is not only damaging to individuals, but to society as a whole. It is an unfortunate irony that while many men may long for connection, they feel unable to express it in ways that feel authentic, resorting instead to silence. A hug, especially between men, becomes a critical moment of emotional release. It is a way of showing care that is not confined to verbal communication, which many may feel awkward or uncomfortable with. Instead, the embrace speaks volumes through its physicality, carrying with it the emotions that words cannot. A man might not always know how to express his sorrow after a loss, but a hug can say, "I see you, I understand, and I'm here for you." It bypasses the barriers that society has erected around male emotion, offering a space where true emotional connection can occur. This silent form of expression is crucial not only for individual well-being, but for broader social health. It reminds men that they are not alone, that it is okay to seek comfort from others, and that their struggles, their pain, their victories, and their joys are worthy of acknowledgement. It is time to reshape the narrative around masculinity, one where strength is no longer about emotional suppression, but about the capacity to engage with one's feelings and connect meaningfully with others. A hug is a simple yet profound way to demonstrate that emotional expression is not a vulnerability to be hidden, but a strength to be embraced. In order for men to reclaim the true power of their emotional expression, they must first understand that vulnerability is not the enemy of strength, but rather its complement. For far too long, society has conditioned men to believe that emotional restraint equals resilience, that holding everything inside is the most honorable way to face the world. This notion, however, has led to a culture of isolation, where men struggle in silence, unable to reach out even when they desperately need connection. The simple, often overlooked act of a hug can serve as a powerful tool in reclaiming this understanding, one that embraces emotional openness without sacrificing masculinity. For a man to show emotional depth is not to show weakness. It is an act of courage. Whether it is a father embracing his son, a friend comforting a friend, or a man offering his support in a moment of crisis, these gestures of care are rooted in strength. They require self-awareness, the ability to be present, and the courage to show another person that they are not alone in their struggles. For many men, this is a step that has been difficult to take because of societal pressures. They have been taught to suppress their emotions, to believe that expressing care means they are losing their grip. But this view must change, for only through such emotional engagement can men experience true connection. In fact, it is precisely through these small, vulnerable moments, like a hug, that the strongest men are made. These are the men who have the strength to acknowledge their feelings, to offer comfort, and to ask for help when necessary. This is the kind of emotional fluency that allows men to form deep, meaningful relationships, whether in friendship, family, or romantic partnerships. The old idea that men should be impervious to emotion fails to account for the deep binding power of empathy. A hug, in its quiet and profound simplicity, is an embodiment of this empathy. It is an expression of shared humanity, an acknowledgement that we all carry burdens, and that carrying them together makes them lighter. By teaching boys and young men that it is not only acceptable but necessary to engage with their emotions, we can help dismantle the emotional isolation that so many men experience. A hug, simple though it may be, holds the power to break down these barriers, offering an open invitation to embrace a new form of strength, one rooted in both vulnerability and connection. A man's hug, then, is not just a gesture of warmth. It is a quiet but radical act of reclaiming emotional depth and dismantling the outdated, restrictive notions of masculinity that still dominate our culture.